comments and opinions expressed on Writers in Focus are those of the individual participants and are presented for the purpose of discussion only. No endorsements by Atlanta Fulton Public Library System or Fulton County government are intended, and none should be presumed.
Hi, welcome to Writers in Focus. I'm your host, James Taylor, and today I'm delighted to have as my guest Maria Flores Sperling.
Hello.
May I call you Maria?
Yes, please do.
Welcome
Nice
to
to
Writers
meet
in
you.
Focus. Welcome to the Atlanta Fulton Public Library. To make a long story short, a colleague of mine, Carla Johnson, who works at the Infectious Diseases Control Center of Grady Hospital on Ponce, said, I must read this book. She lent me the book about 2 weeks ago. I devoured it, gave you a call, said I need to interview you. It's one of the most remarkable books I've read in a long time. It's self-published, but it is available from the internet. I would just go to Maria Flores Sperling on Google or Bing, and there you go. My Spanish is terrible. My guest is a gifted writer, a gifted storyteller, and she has a remarkable story to tell, ladies and gentlemen. The subtitle of the book is ¿De quién es esta niña?, which means whose little girl is this?
Yes.
Puerto Rican woman, huh?
Yeah.
No.
So I'm told.
No, but that's how basically the book begins. Could you basically describe where you were born, where you're from, and are you black? Are you white? What is your ethnicity? What is your race? Because this pervades the entire book. Who are you?
I was born in New England, Massachusetts. I was born in Holyoke, Massachusetts, raised in Springfield,
I know that area very well.
Yeah, I heard you say you were from Worcester.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really close. I'm an American-born woman that was raised in a Puerto Rican household. Embedded in my every fiber is the Puerto Rican culture. We did not refer to ourselves as Americans. We were Puerto Rican. So my mother.
But you are American.
I am American.
A citizen, of course, of course.
Yeah, I was born in
Right.
New England, but I didn't know that. You know, I say I'm Puerto Rican. So my mother would always say, the Americans, those are them, and we are Puerto Rican. So I wasn't aware that I was and then people would ask me, what race am I? And I'm like, well, I'm Puerto Rican. Later finding out that Puerto Rican is not a race. It's just the place where my folks are born.
Right.
Yeah.
The book is, there's so much in this book, Maria, and essentially the book to me is a nonfiction work of self-discovery. You talk about your grandparents, your ancestry, where you're from, the story of your life, and basically the book ends up here in the Atlanta Fulton Public Library in 2009. But I want you to tell me, the book is populated by these amazing characters that are real, your grandfather, your grandmother. Let's talk about your grandmother on your mother's side, in my Spanish is high school, abuela.
Abuela, very good.
And she was Jibaro, which if I say Jibaro to the wrong person, that's an insult?
Yes.
Explain that.
She was a Jibara.
Jibara, I'm sorry.
Well, because she's female. A Jibaro is a person of mixed cultures, mixed races. They're from the mountains, and they're usually people mixed with the indigenous, the Taino Indians and the Spaniards, and they are people who really don't, very basic people, don't read, don't write. Not all of them, but most of them don't. They're not in the modern world at all. So
but filled with what some people call mother wit, with wisdom of centuries.
Definitely. My grandmother was of Indian descent and Spaniard descent, and she was a simple woman, didn't read, couldn't tell time. She taught me how to tell time the way she did, by looking at the sun, very Indian woman. And she was just, my rock.
You turn a lot of conventional wisdom on its head. Now, presumably if you're Puerto Rican, you speak and write Spanish, but at certain times during this book you say that your grandmother from Puerto Rico did not speak the Spanish that we're taught in high school or that we hear. What did she speak?
She spoke the mixture of Spanish and Taino Indian.
Who are supposed to be extinct.
Extinct, supposed to be.
Right.
So, but those where they came from, they sort of escaped to the mountains when the Spaniards came in and slaughtered everyone. So most of the women survived for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So she spoke with, she used words that when I started speaking to other Puerto Ricans, they're like, what does that mean? So I got embarrassed and I learned to adapt and to learn how to speak Spanish correctly. Because,
explain to the audience and to me, and I've read the book, of course, how you managed to get from, no, you were born in Holyoke. You were born on the Day of the Dead, and
Yes.
November 2nd, about 28 years ago. How did your family get from Puerto Rico to Western Massachusetts?
Okay, my father, Mr. Flores, was
Now we're talking about Don Cruzito?
Don Cruzito.
I love those names. God.
Don Cruzito, he was working in Westfield, Massachusetts.
And how many children did he have prior to you?
Oh, prior to me, I think it was maybe 15 or 16.
How many marriages? 7 marriages?
Seven or 8.
This
I
is
think
just
my
in the
mother
first
was
10 pages of the book, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of brothers and sisters that I didn't even know about. So he was in Massachusetts first, and then he went back to Puerto Rico. He was a friend of my grandfather and my grandmother. And when they were pregnant with my mother, he used to play dominoes with him. And somehow he got, it was sort of like an arranged marriage. So my mother was to be with him, and then eventually she did. She ended up with him, and she came to the States, to Massachusetts. And she started working in the tobacco fields because she had no skills.
I can hear people out there go, tobacco fields in New England?
Oh, definitely.
I remember them growing up, in Connecticut especially.
Connecticut, that's where she worked in Connecticut. Got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, got on the bus, went to the fields, came home at 5 o'clock at night. She had no skills. She married him when she was like 17, 18, so she had didn't know the language, so that's all she could do. And she did, and I admired her for that.
So I have friends in Massachusetts, and I can't mention their names, but they're convinced that there are so many Puerto Ricans in New England because of the health benefits and stuff like that. But you make it very clear in this book that Puerto Ricans were immigrant labor, just the way we see it today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I knew. My family didn't get any benefits. They worked hard, very hard. My father, my mother, my grandmother, she used to wash clothes and iron clothes for people just to make some money.
Now, of course, I forgot to introduce you per se, because the entire book is the story of a Weltanschauung, as they say in Germany, the progression of the personality into an adult person. You started out as, I'm looking at my notes, a blancita, but we'll explain what that means in a minute. And now you work as a substance abuse counselor at the Ponce Center for Infectious Diseases, Division of Grady. You're also a certified addiction counselor and a domestic violence counselor, among other professional certifications. The whole book is your journey to your present-day professional activity, your wonderful marriage to Charles Sperling. But what a story. I'm just going to look at my notes and close my eyes. And why were you called a blancita?
Blanquita?
What is blancita?
That means little white girl. Because my brothers and sisters are all tan, dark eyes, dark hair, and I was blonde, blue-eyed, and very light. What you see today is tan. I will not go out without a tan.
You talk about that, I know.
Yes, I felt awkward. I didn't belong. I wanted to be tan. So.
But in the book, I'm not going to give anything away, but your father in the book, Don Cruzito, used to push you away and say, you're not my real child, because you were too